What is up, my fellow audiophiliacs? How's it going? Today we are looking at some really exceptional headphones. Okay, so there's this French company called Focal, right? And they have this, which is a $4,000 headphone, the Focal Utopia, all right? It is sensational, but they also have two other headphones. $1,500 for the clear, all right? And then $1,000 for the Elear or Elear or Elear. $1,000, $1,500, $4,000. Here's my question. Are these effectively very, very similar? They just like this one has better, like this is carbon fiber for the yoke here, whereas these are just aluminum, that's all. This one has perforated leather, and this one only has perforated microfiber. It's not so good. And this one's just microfibers, there's no perforation. Like, is this where the difference for these guys really lives, is mostly just in the physical here? Or because they're using different drivers, different loudspeaker type setups? I don't understand all the details. Listen, I am a hobbyist about music, but I take it very seriously, right? So what I did was I put these guys, each of them, through my like intense sort of listening process, because who gets to actually compare and contrast $4,000, $1,500, and $1,000 headphones with each other? So here's what I found out about these. Now, first of all, before I get into the sound signature and what I actually learned in listening to them, let's just talk about some of the build and materials on these. All of them are very comfortable because they all have the same exact sort of shape to them. Seems to be a shape that these guys really like to use. Soft up here, don't feel any pinch or pressure. These guys are actually like, they're all the same kind of heaviness, even though this has like carbon fiber, so we could save you a gram of weight or something like that. And mostly it just looks really sexy. It also has leather and things that are maybe a little more heavy than the microfiber. So weight-wise, all these guys end up feeling very similar, with these guys actually feeling lighter to me, simply because they're the only ones that have a manageable cable. The cable on these, like the Utopia, it just goes for fucking ever. And you know what? The same on the Elear, and it's a heavy ass cable. I think this is maybe like 3 feet less or something like that. And it still feels too long. Okay, so apparently these guys come with multiple cables for the clears, but I like this cable a lot more just because it's smaller. This is so much nicer to use in a listening environment than this massive ass cable. And you do end up noticing that when they're on. I mean, you know, it's like, it's lighter. And I mean, this is a $4,000 headphone. Why am I talking about the cable? You'd be surprised how much the cable ends up mattering. So weight-wise, this one, the clear, right, at $1,500, ends up feeling like slightly more minimal and comfortable. Though it has to be said that the leather, the perforated leather here on these ear cups and at the top of the headband here is second to none. Right, I've done a few reviews of headphones now, right? A massive death match on the Bluetooth headphones, which I'll put in the link in the description below. I also did the like $800 Cascade Audio, one of theirs. Anyways, I can't remember exactly the name of it, but I loved. It was a very challenging headphone because its sound signature was like, I don't know, it was not neutral. And then I did the Odyssey LCD4 $4,000 headphone versus these. Links to all of those in the description below. Those Odysseys feel really good when you put them on. It's like, it's like, you're just like in there, even though they're this massive heavy thing. These guys feel a little more like a headphone, frankly, whereas that felt like a helmet. In listening, you definitely will go from this to this and back and forth, and then you come to this and it feels, the leather feels a little bit cooler because of that perforation. It just does feel like, just material-wise, it is so lush and amazing. Though not as lush and amazing as the Odyssey LCD4, just because the materiality of that is unreal. So our build quality is solid on these. Like, you've got this metal stuff on the outside, whereas on the Utopia, it definitely gets a little like, it's like beryllium driver. You get a little crazy. But these two are roughly exactly the same in feel. Right, they feel and behave exactly the same. The only difference is that I would say that the microfiber on this is quite a bit nicer than these ones. And when you're spending this much on headphones, I mean, the difference between 1,000 and 1,500, when you're already spending this much on headphones, it's kind of like, all right, these little sorts of things end up mattering. And there's a few other, like when we get into the sound, you'll see it's just little things that end up mattering. Okay, so let's get into the sound. But first of all, I'll tell you what I've been listening on. I've got a handful of DACs that I'm testing all of these from headphones.com. I love working with these guys. They got like a 365-day return policy. Like you could just spend the $4,000, hear what it's like, return it, I guess. I don't know. Maybe they probably don't want me to talk about that as like the main reason why to go for them. Because the other reason is like most of these you can't get other places. But headphones.com does have like this crazy, anyways, they're just some audiophile geeky kids that like really think people should be able to try on their headphones. And anyways, they sent me a bunch of DACs to test out. This is the iFi Micro ISD or IDSD. This one is the guy that I've been using the most. I think it is great. I've compared all these DACs again and again and again. I really can't get a difference in the sound quality from them. Not that there isn't one there, just that like I'm not quite sensitive enough to like tell the difference. And this guy just seems to have the best bang for buck in terms of features. It does have this like X-bass switch as well as like this 3D switch that I don't use when I'm testing these things hi-fi wise to see again like which ones sound better, but there's some tracks that just don't have quite enough of the richness in the bass, and so you put that on and it's like, oh, that sounds perfect. And other times where it's like a little bit of a simple song and you put on the 3D plus and it does some sort of stereo imaging thing that makes it feel like you're listening on speakers instead of on headphones. I like it. And it's a battery and charges your phone if you need to in a bind, and it connects with the SPDIF to your stereo if you need to. I like the knob. It's got a pretty good knob for, you know, when you're listening on, when I've noticed when I'm listening high quality audio and I'm really critically listening, my fingers are always on that knob and I'm kind of riding it and getting me like right where I want it to be, and then eventually I'll be able to not touch it for a while. But each song's a little different, you know, and you're kind of riding like where, at what point am I actually damaging my ears too much? Volume in listening critically to music is this very subjective and challenging thing, you know, and you kind of have this discipline. The old guys definitely talk to us about like, hey man, don't listen too loudly. I get it that it's more immersive when it's loud, that it feels better, especially when you're in headphones like basically all of these, which can handle that kind of volume, right? Clearly, without distorting, and you're just like immersed in it. And this gets really loud. It's definitely something I'm still learning how to manage because when I get lost in the song a little bit, I feel like I can hear more of the detail and the richness. And in listening to this, by the way, I'll put a link to that IDSD Micro or whatever it is below. They have the weirdest names for these things. But when I'm listening on these headphones, in these listening sessions, it's been like really challenging to hear the differences between all of them, right? Okay, let's get into it. Let's just start talking about my trail notes from listening to music. The first song I did was Alice by Tom Waits, okay? Very simple, moody, dark. You feel like you're in the room with this collection of just chain-smoking, beret-wearing musicians in Louisiana or something. Instrumentally, it's sort of a simple song on the surface, but as you listen a lot, there's actually a lot of stuff going on, especially when these weird like clarinets, or maybe it's a saxophone part playing really mellowly, that like kind of comes in as like a pad in certain places. You got this piano, the brush on the snare, you've got his gravelly, breathy voice, and you have this massive boom, rich, simple, upright bass, right? So I started listening on these clears. As soon as that bass clicks in, it doesn't click in it, it like rumbles in, it thuds in. Nice clarity, feels good because of the way that the song is mixed. and just the instrumentation of it. There's space for everything, right? And this is taking it all in, including that breathy presence in his voice, right? The gravelly up there, the brush of the snare. There's almost all these like sound effects, the way that the saxophone comes in and out and kind of honks around. Okay, so first listening through, it's like, okay, this sounds really good. I've never really listened to the song this critically. This is really an interesting and good song. Then I go over to the Elear, the $1,000 headphone. Again, $1,000, $1,500, $4,000, all from the same company. I go over here, does a great job. In fact, the vocals almost sound a little bit more realistic over here because there's one frequency, there's one little narrow frequency band on his voice that seems to be accentuated here. I've heard this before on like a Dave Matthews song where it's like, there's one little frequency in his voice that's breathy up towards the higher end. Like I'm thinking like maybe closer to like 10,000 hertz or something like that. Little notch that seems to be accentuated. That's not present over here. So the vocals have this little bit more realistic sound. I just notice again that the instruments are kind of coming from all over the place. They're recorded. It feels like, you know, they're really literally in different places in the room, though maybe it has a slightly less distinction than these, but it's like, I can't really tell at this point. Then I come over to the Utopias, right? The $4,000 headphones. I'm expecting, I don't know what I'm expecting here, right? Actually, to be honest, I'm not expecting very much because I'm already loving this song. I'm already feeling like the richness of the bass on both of these, this spread of the frequencies, this sort of detail and richness. So I come over here and that frequency in his voice is accentuated again, right? It sounds a little, just slightly, you just start to notice it, and it can kind of get a little bit distracting. But ultimately, no fireworks, right? It's not like it sounds like amazing compared to these other ones. I'm really working hard to hear here. I'm probably working too hard to hear. Okay, but this is a weird song. It's sort of like I've mentioned, the instrumentation sort of, it's different. It's a very interesting song. It's hard to, like, it's such like almost like an intense, a visceral sort of, I don't know, like an emotional kind of feel and a vibe to the song. It's like, okay, let's go to something that's a little easier. Let's go to The District Sleeps Alone tonight. I like that this is turning into like trail notes. I went to The District Sleeps Alone tonight by the Postal Service. Okay, and I started listening. Where did I start with? I started with the Utopia. I just started here. And after a little while, I was just like, this song is going to be too hard to hear as well, because it's kind of like glitchy and minimal, and there's a lot of stuff going on, and it just feels really, really digital, right? I love that song, and I've listened to it like countless times in my old Toyota T100, you know, driving around all over the place, just blasting that whole album. I loved it. But for critical listening, let's switch it up a little bit. Let's head to Radiohead's Fake Plastic Trees. Okay, so this is the kind of song that I think would sound really good on those Odyssey LCD4s. It has that like straight to tape kind of sound, right? This is older Radiohead. I started on these guys, and I don't know, you can actually hear a little bit of, it's distracting. There's this noise gating on the acoustic guitar that you can kind of hear it slightly jittering in and out in certain parts. It's a dark, sort of mellow, like kind of like, I don't know, a little bit haunting song. It sounds good. The overall feel of the song is sort of dark, but you do have this sort of, it's like a gentle strum on the guitar, but you get these plinks through on those strings, the pick on the string throughout the entire thing. And I noticed that it's Thom Yorke's voice that is so interesting in this song. Like the whole song provides this moody background, but his voice, I don't normally think of Thom Yorke as a very expressive singer. I think of him as an alien that has come here to make fun of us in his art form. But there's moments in this song that, like, first of all, his voice, he's nailing these, he's a good singer. Like, he's actually, I never really thought of him that way. He's a good singer, and there's some emotionality coming out on this. Okay, let's switch over to the vocals. I notice immediately the coolness of the leather as I put it on. By the way, like, it just, after I've been wearing these for a whole, 4 or 5 minutes of that song, I put these on, and it was like, it definitely felt like, oh, this is nice to put on. I also noticed that early on in the song, there's these strings that come in very minimally, like it's a very minimal string that comes in, and they have a slightly more realistic quality on these. You can almost, it's almost like, what I noticed on these is almost like you could hear the reverb of things, like the spaciousness of things a little bit clearer. And that gave you just gave you more good data, and your ears, your mind, your brain, this amazing fucking crazy thing that we have, just started like creating fabricating a reality, right? So it seems to be providing me like a little, and this is something I noticed later on as well, which we'll get into. It seems to be providing a little more data, maybe a lot more data, I don't know, but just a little bit more data to create just a little bit more of a realistic scene. There's this line, he used to do surgery for girls in the 80s, something like that. And there's this string, there's this synth, they have actual strings on this song, or like the best synth at the time, because it sounds like real strings, and it just comes into harmony with him. It sounds so good. And then there's that line, gravity always wins, and I don't know, it always gets me. You can hear slightly more of the acoustic guitar, the plink of the acoustic guitar, not clicking on like individual strings, but just the strumming of it, which is it's a great sound. It's a rhythmic, almost like a shaker kind of sound, right? Then I went over to the Elears, and this is where I started noticing this happening on the Elears. It happened pretty much on most of the tracks after this. It's like the vocals are present and they stand out, and they sound good too. The vocals sound good, but it sounds like it's one plane, and then the music, like all the rest of the music is on another plane, and it's kind of smushed together a bit more. It's sort of all the backing track just feels like it's on the same plane. You do notice there's a couple different planes, like his vocals are on one. Maybe if you think really hard about it, you can separate other things. Whereas over here and over here, it seemed like there was more planes in the music. And I'm using the word plane, P-L-A-N-E, not plains as in like the place that you're from when you're in the middle of the country. And you know how like when you look at a mountain, like a mountain range far off, and you see all the different, like they get foggier and fadier as they go back, and almost looks like it's flat paper, and it's back. That's the kind of effect I'm talking about. It's almost like you can sense spatially where the things are, but things are smushed together, and then only some things are separated out. That's what felt like it was going on over here, is there was more smushed together, a little more one-dimensional, though it was not unpleasant at all, like where his vocals sat. Definitely did feel like, especially over here, slightly more data and richness, and here, little tiny bit more data and richness than this. But we're talking barely. That's what you're gonna hear me say a few times in this, right? We're talking like, all right, I'm really looking critically, I'm really listening. The song is still so fucking good. All right, so we're in Radiohead. I have to go to my favorite Radiohead song, Let Down, right? This is on OK Computer. This thing that took me like literally like 6 months of practicing every day on the piano to learn how to play this weird like while you do the chord progression over here, because this is like 5/4 and 4/4. I don't know what the time signatures are, but I love this song. This really bright, chilling guitar, shrill almost, and all these synthesizer bits going on, and this crazy good vibe throughout the entire like sort of floating song. It's just like, I don't know, it's melancholy and great. I started on the Elears over here, right? And I can hear his voice. They've panned it like one totally left, one totally right, and they're just mirroring each other. Two different tracks, right? Very kind of an interesting sort of like, it's like never quite right, it's never quite wrong the whole time. It's very interesting. And that glimmering, that clear, sheer, shrill guitar that like, I don't know, it just reminds me of just so many times driving in my old Toyota, this like to and from Santa Barbara from San Francisco, because that's where like I went to school, and I was road tripping like crazy listening to the song. So I listened to it, it sounds good. I go over here to the clear, it definitely sense a little more of the clicks, a little more of the buzz on the acoustic guitar. There's this acoustic guitar panned right, and you could literally hear fret buzz like a handful of times, and it's not distracting. it's just adding to the texture of the song. The vocals also, if I'm honest, they sound a little more present, like a little more like I can sense them, they're just a little bit clearer, but it's very barely. This is where we're like, listen, we're talking about very subtle differences here, right? But I have to admit, like, yeah, no, it seems like something's right there. I could totally be faking myself out. This is the thing about hi-fi audio, you guys, and you have to know this. You have to know this about all the old guys stroking their beards and, you know, pontificating about the audio stuff. It's like, we're talking about a very subtle world here, right? I believe there are some ears out there, like the kinds of people who have mastered like so many of the songs and albums that are on the radio. People who are just like Buddhas who just do the mastering. They have these like golden ears, right? I think it's a skill you can learn over time. And I think it's also something you can just be gifted in. You can just like be a synesthete and have more sensitivity to that stuff from the start. But too, you know, each person has to go on their own journey, and my journey is definitely in figuring out like what I'm sensing and what I'm not. I'm thinking that I'm sensing a little bit more of that clarity and presence here in the clears. And I have to say again, it is this interesting thing to watch both of these vocals, which you know are the same guy, recorded at different times, totally panned left and right differently. And then during the choruses, especially the big one, like halfway through, you hear this this third vocal come in, but it's so barely there. It's subtle, and it does this harmony with these guys, and it sings a line differently on one part. Like it holds this note for longer while these guys are doing different things, but it's mixed so subtly. And there's so much other shit going on in the song, but you can kind of pick that out. It's very interesting. Okay, let's switch to the Utopia. Now, immediately I notice some of a little more distinctiveness on this guitar, this electric guitar that's pan centered. I can hear this now, whereas before it's been kind of smushed together with the other stuff. I can also hear that buzziness of that acoustic guitar panned right a little bit, and it's not that it's distracting, but I definitely notice it slightly more. So I notice a little bit more separation, right? In those planes of music, all of a sudden these things are coming, instead of being smushed 2D, they're a little bit three-dimensional. They're a little bit more like entities in energy space, or whatever you want to think about it as. And I also noticed that the kick, the thud of the kick drum and the crash of the cymbal, the splash of the cymbal, I notice it's like, oh, that sounds a little more satisfying, slightly more satisfying. And then again, I noticed that really subtle vocal harmony, because now you're looking for it, right? The songs are teaching you how to listen to them, and you're finding these things in them, right? So that's where I'm definitely noticing some of the differences here. But one of the things you have to know that's also going on is the more time you spend with a song, the more you understand a song, the more I don't know, the more it affects what you think you're hearing in it. So now this Letdown song has taught me quite a bit about what to listen for in it, and I'm listening to it on these. So it's like, I'm not only using the headphones that should have the most clarity and detail and realistic kind of whatever, showing me everythingness in them, but I'm also educated more than I have been previously about this song when I was listening on these two, right? So grain of salt here. And there's this thing as vocals do right before the last chorus where it's like these they're kind of give and take. It's like this one does one for a while and it's just panned right, and then this one does one for a while, and while he's doing that, like this guy's doing some just howling and shit like that, and he ends it just sort of like la-da-dee-da! And it just sounds so good as it goes into that chorus, like amazing. So good in fact that I'm like, all right, stop that. Rewind it. Let's go back through each of these again and listen to that part as it builds up, because I find that you kind of have to build into it a little bit, and then you can really look for what you're looking for. And so I do it with both of these, and I hear quite a bit as well again. In fact, when I listened on these, I could tell that he wasn't actually screaming. It was just his falsetto. And it was so low in the mix that you kind of can't tell the difference. And so like on this song, I'm learning that these all have a lot of that thud of the kick and the plink and the shimmer of the guitars and the plucking and like the spatialness of where things are. They're all doing a great job. This guy's doing, like, this guy has the most data, this guy has the second most data, and this guy has the third most data. Like that, like that's just it. Okay, so I'm like, let's go to a more simple song, but that has a very sort of synthy quality to hear, so I go to James Blake's Retrograde, which is this simple, his vocals are just really clear and present. I start on these, the clears. It's just this like, and then his vocals, right? With a simple like keyboard thing that comes in, and then this like bass thing that comes in, and eventually this like synth that comes in and just burninates the countryside and burninates the people. So I listen on this, it's good. It's got all the things. Wow, what a fucking great song. In fact, there's parts on this where you can hear like a track like cut or a track like come right in, especially just in the beginning before there's very much going on. And you can hear like a new track come in, sort of like when like they didn't really mix it really well. Like there's kind of like a little bit of a almost a click and then new noise comes in, but nothing's really happened. Then I go over to vocals and it's like all good still. Just like, again, just sounds really good. The synth comes in and just burninates, and it's just like, and there's no distortion. His vocals remain present and clear and centered in the midst of it. Then I went over to the Elear, and this, I definitely noticed a jump down in resolution, but just, again, we're talking very, very, very minimal. But like when you're talking about these subtleties, like it definitely was noticeable. Slightly more sibilance. Sibilance is the sound of this thing, and then some microphones and some speaker reproductions and stuff like that, you get this kind of like harsh sort of buzzing going on. Slightly more of that here. Also slightly less distinctiveness in those planes of the instruments, right? Whereas now I'm seeing things again as 2D sort of planes that are beautiful, but like I wasn't even thinking like that before when it was like that. I was just like, what is he saying? Like, what does that sound? Like, like, wow, listen to this sonic richness. And here I'm like, I'm understanding it. I'm seeing it more. It's been flattened and smushed a little bit more. I'm less immersed in it. So I go over to here, my AudioTechnica M50x's, 150 bucks, right? I think maybe even less than that, 120 bucks or something. Classic, very great headphones for like all your basic kind of thing. What does this song sound like on this? Immediately, more thud in the kick drum, just like buh, buh. And it's not unpleasant. It's definitely overwhelming different parts in the song, but it's such a simple song that it's like, you definitely can groove with it. But it does have a lack of distinction, right? It's just like this, this huge bassy experience. Okay, so the vocals immediately sound much thinner. They have a much thinner, narrower quality to them. And then the bass sound of the bass like synth is sloppier. It's less distinct, right? So you're definitely noticing the wheels sort of falling off this song. Again, it still grooves. And it's almost like the bass seems less punchy, less clear, a little more mysterious. So there's a quality in it that's kind of good. But like, I do like that clarity. I like to understand sonically like what was actually put into this song, right? So then as the synth is burninating and all the people are just burninating, the whole countryside's burninating, and then his vocals come in and yeah, definitely thinner. We're getting a lot of that experience of like things being smushed together, more of a flat panel that's wrapped around my face than a room that I am inside. Okay, you've probably got the picture by now, but hold on. I've just got 3 more songs, and these ones are really fun. I went to Here to Love You. I just wanted to do the Doobie Brothers. I wanted something from the 70s, right? I really like the Doobie Brothers. So I put on this track, Here to Love You, which I enjoy, even though I haven't listened very critically to it before. And I start with these clears that I'm just like, fuck, man, what a song. all of this, like, this groove and the drum, and then the fucking bongo, the percussion comes in. And it's so good. This is like the first few seconds of the song, and you're already like, where's the doobie? Let's light this up. Woo! It's gonna be a good day. This is a good night. This is awesome. Let's hang out. How are you? All this rhythm and smoothness and groove, and then literally Michael McDonald's voice comes in. Like a fucking shot of like bourbon with molasses mixed in. He's just like, oh babe, don't you, oh, I love you, don't let me be lonely. And he's just emoting so much. He's just like, he's such a little baby, right? You just want to take care of Michael McDonald. And like when his vocals come in on top of this whole beautiful bed of groove, like, first of all, I'm blown away. I'm like, how did they get this sound? They just don't make music like this anymore. They just don't make music like this anymore, that I'm finding. The sound, like all of that stuff's going on, and I'm like, what a rich feast of sound. And then his vocals come in, and you don't lose anything. It's just so beautiful how it's put together. Like, and it just fits. All right, that was here. That's my experience over here. Then I go into this guy, and it's like, yeah, roughly the same, because there's so much like, with the clarity stuff, with the groove, with the hit of the hi-hat, the right? That kind of stuff, the bongos, all of these are very percussive, right? You can see the sound wave goes, it's just like a sharp thing and then it fades out, right? I think in music like that, it's a little bit easier to feel the quality of in some ways. I might be totally wrong on that. So these ended up feeling great. Slightly less, maybe a little less spaciousness, a little less two-dimensional or three-dimensionalness, but like still like the groove was so there. And my notes on the Utopia are just this. Just, yeah, it's all good. I need to love you, baby. No more loneliness. And he has this, that's one of the lyrics. I need to love you, baby. No more loneliness. Like that's what he's saying. No more loneliness. He has these great vocal flourishes on the song where he's like, yeah, we're gonna spend time together, baby. Oh, it's so good, you guys. It is such a good song, and it's the spirit of that time, which I feel like I just wish I was in that time. But again, it's just, yeah, like it's all there. Maybe a little bit more is there, right? $4,000, $1,500, $1,000. I couldn't help myself. On that same album is Minute by Minute by the Doobie Brothers. Again, minute by minute by minute by minute. The Elear, just a little more flat. The Clear sounded really, really good. The Utopia sounded really, really good. Okay, then I got this interesting track from someone on the headphones.com forums who shared a Spotify playlist of things that they listen to. There's this song called Runnin' in Sevens by Christian Scott Atunde Ajua, like this amazing, I think he's a trumpet player, but maybe he's a percussion guy, because this song is just drums. It's just drums, and then at some point, like, more drums come in. And it's an awesome song. It's just very interesting. Like, sonically, there's this kick drum, which it just explodes in the space every time it's hit, and it's hit often, right? So it's this booming, bassy, like incredibly it's almost like trancey kind of like overwhelmingness. All these guys do a pretty good job of, I have never really heard a headphone do that song in a way that like, I don't find that drum to be overwhelming, right? Because that's just how I think how they mixed it. And this whole track got me thinking like this, because it's in these drum sets are in this studio. You could slightly hear the reverb of this space. I don't think, I could be wrong, but it doesn't seem like they have like actual reverb that they're adding to these tracks in post. But what I start to sense is it's almost like what the difference between these headphones are, this has more headroom. Do you know what headroom is? Headroom is like how much bandwidth it has left over, right? To like, so like if on these headphones, you play the song and it basically, here's your bandwidth, here's what the headphone's capable of doing, and we're like right there, maybe just a little bit less. If you're right up there, like you're whisking distortion. And by the way, the people who know about headroom, they're probably laughing at me right now. This is a poor man's version of it, but I'm talking to regular people on the internet, so please forgive me. And I myself am profoundly regular when it comes to like understanding things like this, but I have found that it's an important thing to know for me and all my podcasting and all my digital files and stuff like that. So it's almost like these guys just have more headroom, right? So you play this song at like volume and you're right here and you just have like these beryllium loudspeakers can just do more than they're currently doing. And because of that, you get a clearer signal through. There is more space in the system. There's more capacity in the system. And so what you're hearing is like more easily reproducible for this system. And these seem to have, like maybe that's a helpful metaphor for you. For me, it seems to be like a little bit of an insight, like, oh man, that actually makes sense. That helps me understand what these are doing. I might be wrong on that, but these definitely have more headroom. That's why listening to the difference between these guys is sometimes very challenging, because the sonic quality that's in the recorded media is there. It's coming through all of these, but it's being shifted in slight little ways by the way its drivers work and things like that. And these do a little bit less, these do a little bit better, and these do quite a bit better. Okay, so here's my verdict on this thing. I mean, you've basically heard it 100 times at this point, right? You've heard it so many times in this video that's what's going on. And I actually really like these. I think you get just about everything you get out of these. I'm saying just about, because for some of you, just about might mean like this is like 1% better, or maybe this is 5% better, right? And some of you like that 1% or that 5% matters a lot. And so others of you, it's like, hold on, like, you know, an extra $2,500 or whatever. I'm not a mather, I'm a reader. Yeah, $2,500. I literally had to like do it on my fucking hands. An extra $2,500 over here for what is effectively the leather. Feels really nice. Long ass cable, but you can get a custom cable made for you. That's however you want. Really, basically the best headphone I've ever used in my life. After comparing to another pair of $4,000 headphones and others, I definitely prefer these because of the clarity and the richness that's there. So you're basically going to hear whatever you put through these for the rest of your life. Like, that's just a gorgeous thing to spend $4,000 on. Or of course you could take your kids and your entire family out to like the Mayan ruins to like hike around and see like how an ancient culture lived, and that's going to change someone's life forever too. Or you can put it in a goddamn savings account, or like invest it in something and just don't touch it for 15 years and buy a house. So at $1,500, these are really great. Now, what I wish I had with me here is like the really like the Sennheiser 800, whatever it is that everybody rants and raves on, because those are, I think, coming around $1,000, $1,200. And I'd love to compare these to those to see what we get. But unfortunately, this is what I got for headphones that compare here. And I just, like, for some of you, you're gonna hear like the difference between $1,000 and $1,500 is like a really big difference. And so if this does all of that, then go for it. I would just say, like, for me, this does a tangibly better job than this in subtle ways that do matter to me. And so if I'm already spending $1,000, waiting another month to get an extra $500, or like, you know, eating ramen for another few months just to be able to get these is a little more commensurate with my, or aligned with my what I believe in about the products that we buy, right? I would love to be the kind of person, and I think we all like but would live a better life, would feel better about our lives if we figured out what we wanted, went for it, even if it spent money, it cost us a lot of money, and then we just were happy once we got it. Like, we're just like, we know that in purchasing this thing, we're deciding to be happy. And I know that's a hard thing for a lot of us because we're constantly comparing and this, that, and the other. But that to me is the skill. That's why, you know, mindfulness meditation, basically. Okay, guys, that is it. That is it. Thank you for, if you're still watching, I literally, like, please comment and just let me know. Let me see your avatar and just know who you are, because that's amazing that you watched through all of this. You clearly are interested in sound and in headphones and stuff like that. I'm going to be doing a lot of reviews of stuff like this. Follow along. I am glad that you watched. Please use the links in the description to explore any of these things. If you do purchase anything from headphones.com or any of the other links that I have in there, sometimes I have an affiliate relationship there that helps support the channel. Gives me basically buys me a beer or something like that. So much obliged for those of you who do. If you don't worry about it. If you like hate this, if you're like, this is stupid and I don't feel like it was helpful at all, like, then you haven't paid me anything. Okay, that's it. Talk to you guys later. Love ya. Goodbye. Bagworks.co
JaceReeves.net. Those are the websites.
I guess those are the websites.
Yeah, I
he's
guess
wanting
so.
us to, I guess, go check out what he's up to or something like that.
Yeah, looks nice.